Okay, as it is 7 o'clock, I will call the meeting to order. We'll begin tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance. I keep looking back there for the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we will also read our mission statement. The mission statement of the Bold School District is to provide all learners in the Bold community an education designed to develop the creativity, character, confidence, and skills essential to flourish in a changing global society. All right, with those two things said, we'll begin tonight with the approval of our agenda.
One of the things that we've been discussing today is instead of approving Nexus, as it says in item number 1, approve an agreement with Nexus, the Facilities Committee is not quite ready to make a decision on that yet. I had emails from Jackie, Pat Baumgartner, Jackie Edwards, and Greg Mertens all suggesting that the board give the superintendent signing authority for phases 1 and 2 upon the facility committee meeting, making that recommendation. So they're asking for the board to give me signing authority for phases 1 and 2 once the facilities committee makes that recommendation.
Do we need a motion for that?
Well, right now we're just approving the agenda, so that would be a change of.
It's changing the wording, so I'm not sure if we need to.
Well, there would be if we agreed with that. You know, it'd be
Yep.
changing what is here to what Mr. Menton was saying. You know, approving signing authority for Superintendent Menton for phases 1 and 2 with Nexus Solutions LLC.
So maybe we don't need to make a change then? Is that what you're saying?
No, I was saying that's what it would say. That's what I was trying to
I'm
say.
sorry. Yeah.
I don't know that we should do that, because if we're gonna push off the agreement right now, we want to discuss that before we.
That's what
That's what
this
he's
is. What this is would allow us to do is move forward once the committee is satisfied and they've properly vetted Nexus. It allows us to get moving. Otherwise, we have to wait to the next board meeting to.
Well, what if it's till the next board meeting?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it could be.
So,
It
I
could
mean, I almost think we should, I almost feel like we should maybe just discuss it and
Okay, it can be part of the discussion.
so taking it off as an action item and just saying, because you're going to talk about that during your report at all, so maybe it just goes there.
Well, so we don't want, like, I would like to see that if we could do a phase 1 and phase 2, because we're talking about meeting as soon as possible.
But what if you don't decide until,
But I
you
think
know-
that's what we want to get together and just like until we decide.
right, but what if you meet next week, but still you haven't decided?
But I
It's
was saying,
still
like,
pushed off until March, so why?
Well, what this allows us to do is if we do meet next week or probably in 2
a
weeks,
couple times, whatever.
yeah, or whatever it takes, the committee wants to actually sit down with and hear them,
Mhm.
have a chance to talk to them again. It gives us the ability then to move forward at that point rather than waiting another 2 weeks to the board meeting.
I like the option of waiting to the board meeting, so if there's any other questions the board has after that, at least you could talk about it and then go ahead with your action item, but at least the board can discuss it, because some of the board members aren't even part of the facility.
Yeah, I
Or
mean, we
the-
haven't even heard any of the people come forward yet.
But that's why you have a
Board,
committee.
That's,
You-
yeah, that's how we have the facility.
Well, how can we make a good sound decision if we're not part of that, listening to the people and bringing it forward? How
Well,
can,
that's the point of the committee. I mean, we need to trust the facilities committee to make that decision.
These
That's
are-
what
well,
we
if
appointed
I'm
them
gonna
to
make
do.
if I'm going to make a vote on it, I want to listen. I don't want to be out here and just go, okay, yeah, that sounds good.
I talked to a
mean,
lot about the school board convention, so that's why I feel like I'd be okay with it. But I mean, you didn't, so.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. I mean, as a board, we should have heard, how many did you have? 5, 6?
6.
Yeah, 6 that we
Were you
interviewed.
there?
Well, it's the facilities committee that has taken this on, and we are not on the facilities committee.
Yeah, the whole purpose
So-
for having committees is to do something that the whole board it would be tough for the whole board to do. And then, yeah, you do have to kind of trust the people you have. We've got, I would say, one of the best facilities committees around. So,
But I agree with Jill at this point. I would rather, it's only 2 weeks more and be able to, like, if there is any, if the other board members that aren't part of it have any questions then, before we go into phase 1 and phase 2, once they decide, let those board members be part of that at that point. Just to, you know what I mean? Instead of, just think we need to do that.
I guess I would say we table this until next
Yes.
month.
okay,
Is I guess what I'm,
I will let the committee know.
So have all the board members heard these people already? Everybody
no,
but me, or-
no, because
No, the
I'm
committee.
not on the facilities committee
Okay.
either, and
No,
neither is Tracy.
I'm not either. I
So-
talked
and
to a lot of the people
Brian
that they
has
were
been,
talking
but
to
not-
at the school board convention
Oh.
because they were in the exhibit hall. So
Yeah, I'm just,
that's how, and I had a long conversation with Nexus because I can't think of her name, but she was
Ellie.
awesome. Yeah, she was awesome. And just because you kind of mentioned them and so that's all. But I know who's on the facilities committee and I'm very confident that they're doing their due diligence to
Oh,
find the
I
best
don't have a problem
possible.
with them either. It's just that if I gotta vote on something, I'd like to hear it too.
Yeah, it's understandable.
you know,
It's
you
on
can,
YouTube.
you can, yeah, it's on
Yeah, that's
YouTube.
true. Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
All right.
The interviews with them are not on YouTube though.
Yeah.
So other than number 1, new business tabling that for March, anything else that you need?
Nope, that's all I
Okay.
had.
All right, with that, could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion is made by Teresa,
Second.
seconded by Bookdell. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing nothing else, we will vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, recognition of visitors to the board meeting. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and we'll try to keep things moving as quickly as possible. Move on to public forum. Our public forum is placed on the agenda for regular board meetings. During this part of the regular school board meeting, up to 10 minutes of time will be allowed for district constituents to address the board. Each person or topic may have up to 2 minutes of time, and this is a time of listening by the board. So if anybody would like to speak, now is the time. And if you could just come up in front of the camera, that would be helpful. So,
You don't need
yeah, I guess we don't need the mic tonight, but
It's-
if you could just come so the camera can
Okay,
see you. And whenever you're ready, I'll start the.
I'm John, John O'Neill. I came in and I read through the board, or package for today. And I noticed in there was no report from the, finance committee. Well, we had a meeting a week ago or so, and we were dealing with the community ed. Right now, we're looking at June of 22, deficit of 496,000. Well, in discussing this, it was revealed that 44% of the administrator that's operating it, 44% of his salary was being billed to community ed. And the time study showed he was spending 7% of his time. The secretary was billed at 44% of her time to community ed and was actually spending about 10% of her time. Well, just kind of rough it out as to taking my estimates of their salaries and their benefits and everything else. And it looks like we were overcharging community ed by about $41,000 a year. And you take that over 5 years, that's $207,000 of that $500,000 deficit. Now, Lindsay provided a couple of 3 different scenarios for paying this off. One was 15 years of $33,000 a year, which kind of looks to me like paying the minimum payment on your credit card. You're not going to get very far with that. Option B was $50,000 a year for 10 years. Option C was 100,000 a year for 5 years. I'd kind of like to propose an option D. We take the 280,000 or 208,000 of overcharges to community ed and repay that from the general fund right off the bat. And then we take the 58,000 a year for 5 years to pay that off. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, seeing no one else, we'll move on. School Board Recognition Week by Mr. Menton.
Yes, well, you have these fancy certificates there in front of you. I think it's important that the average person doesn't really know everything you guys end up doing. There's a lot of time that's put into being a board member. I don't even think I fully understood that until this year. It's a big job, and it's becoming increasingly more difficult, especially when you see some of the things in what the larger districts are having to go through right now. And I want to thank you for having the courage to take on these positions. It's important, and it's important for our kids going off into the future. So thank you very much for all you do. And I hope the community understands just how much more there is to your job than they can see.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on to consent items. We only need one motion to approve the consent items. And what we have in the packet this month are approving the bills for payment and approving the minutes from the January 24th, 2022 regular meeting.
So moved, Boleen.
Motion is made by Boleen. I will second that. Any discussion or questions?
I just have a quick question, or whatever, it's not my question is, there's a bill on there from ICS, and I asked the accountant to pull that for now. It's for $9,750. And I know Jim had sent a deal out this afternoon that we did somewhere along the line times. Ryan told us at the meetings there was nothing more we owed them but that $15,000. So I don't feel like we owe that to them, this $9,000. I don't, because why should we pay something? There was no point ever where they said, and I don't know if that contract that Mr. Bransway signed for that extra amount that came out here, that they found here, where that came from, but at no point in time did they ever bring that out to the public, that there was more money if we did not follow through on anything, that we're gonna have to back pay any of that. So
That
I told
wasn't-
her today to hold that check for now until we can discuss this.
That wasn't what it was for, though. I guess my understanding was that it was for the referendum work that they did through for the referendum.
But we never voted on that for them to do that, to pay them
think
that
that was-
extra amount of money.
Part of the contract, wasn't
That
it?
was part of the agreement that Dale signed.
So
Was phase, I don't remember if they called it phase
I don't know,
one.
it's
Where
like
did we give
phase
them
3.
permission for the other half of that, the other portion? Because there was only
what did
a
you
motion
send
for the
us today?
15,000. For us to pay them 15,000, and they said that covers everything. Covers everything unless we go follow through to the next process, to the next level, then we would pay them, which we never got there because the referendum didn't pass.
But I think that was for the referendum work.
That was for the, yes.
I just pulled their contract here, so this is what I'm reading in here. So there were like 3 steps, and you could combine the 3 steps, but I'll just read them so for clarification here. It says to offer an a la carte menu of services for this phase of the proposal, ICS would break down the following options. 1, step 1, completion of the physical building assessment and reporting. Step 2, completion of an outline electronic survey to staff and or community, that's $1,000. Step 3, completion of the planning portion, which includes board and community input sessions and solution facilitation, that's $8,500. However, they say if you combine steps 1 through 3, there would be efficiencies gained by securing all services in one package. as we would conduct interviews, gather data, and meet with various groups in less trips and days. Securing all services together would be a lump sum fee of $15,000. Then down below, it says, upon like approvals in the funding phase, which I would think that'd be after the referendum, ICS proposes a lump sum fee not to exceed $9,750 for this phase of the overall effort. We will work with the district administration to monitor and track our costs in an effort to maintain an ongoing knowledge of our efforts to date. So I think that right there is kind of not super clear because it says approvals and funding phase. So does that mean upon approval of the referendum? Now we're gonna look
No.
at the funding phase after that?
No, that
We're
was to
seeking
get the
approval.
approval, to get the referendum. I'm not sure if that's why they use the word approval in there. I don't know. I wasn't there when they wrote their contract, but that was the, I forwarded you the email from Ryan where he explained that. I don't know if I can access that here or not, but
So it's number 2 on the contract, which is funding approval, pre-referendum services. Assist a district in informational campaign for referendum effort. For the effort, we would create website, Be Bold, Step Up. Create information mailer, monitor and fulfill voting regulations. Produce and submit required review and comment to the Department of Education. Attend community meetings and provide communication during the referendum. A, the work was completed by October 2019 to February 2020. B, the amount of this portion was $97.50. C, this has not been paid to date.
Where
So
does that come from?
That's,
Their
that's
contract.
that's the email that Jim sent today that was forwarded from Ryan.
And that was a whole different one than the one she's got, then, it sounds like.
No?
that was
That's-
Ryan was clarifying what
Yeah.
that was for.
Contract.
Yeah.
But that's,
It's under funding approval.
And I-
Facilities research and study is where the 15,000 comes from.
Mhm.
The funding approval is where the 97.50 comes. And it says beyond these 2 components, the agreement, they were involved in other various ways.
so it says in this email that Ryan sent, it says funding approval. Yeah, you just read this.
Yeah.
Pre-referendum services. So that's what the funding approval is.
That's the
What is that?
I don't know why they don't say pre-referendum services.
Yeah, it
That
doesn't say
doesn't say
that.
But-
referendum on that.
Well, the funding approval is the pre-referendum process.
Well, this is what I got. I don't know who
That's
has
the
the
actual
original
contract.
contract, but this is the one that I was given.
Well, and it was sent today, but,
I just think that numerous times in meetings, we asked Ryan, okay, do we owe you anything else? What do we owe you from here on out? He absolutely said nothing. 15,000 is what we owe you, yep, and that's paid, so nothing. But now all of a sudden, now we get this bill that they want us to pay $9,700 to me. It's like, okay, you kept saying nothing, and then all of a sudden, a bill pops up.
but
So it's
that
under
amount is
approval
in
and
the
funding.
contract, so that we
ICS
signed.
proposes a lump sum.
Not sure why it's just,
I just don't want
Coming
to
up
pay a bill,
now.
just to pay a bill, and then,
Approve unfunded.
I mean, we're already.
So that's what that pre-referendum is.
They honestly, they put in probably closer to $100,000 worth of work on this for us. There was a lot that went on. I know I was at a lot of the Zoom meetings. There was a lot happening behind the scenes. And after the, I call it the Post-it note meeting, I was out in the parking lot. Yeah, it's infamous. I was out in the parking lot talking to Ryan and Pat, and I asked them, I said, so if we severed right now, would we owe you anything? And they said about $10,000 or something like that.
Well, and I think that we wouldn't have owed that 97 had we kept with them
If we would have stuck with them, that would have rolled off
Right.
over
into.
into whatever.
all right, any other discussion? All right, hearing nothing, we will be voting on consent items. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. All right, moving on to personnel. Number one, approve the Activities Director, Community Education, Dean of Students contract for Derek Flan for fiscal year 22 and 23. It's enclosure number one.
I make the motion.
Motion is made by Bookdale. I will second that. And any discussion?
Again, I would like to say that I'd like that to be split into 3 separate contracts because they're 3 separate jobs. I think it's cleaner that way moving forward.
All right, anything else?
I kind of feel the same way, just because with us moving with the YMCA, we don't know where we're gonna be in the next few months. And I think if we keep them separate, it's better for us. It might be easier for somebody else, but it's gonna be better for us in the long run. So we kind of know where we're at in each position, not just everything thrown together. And I think we need to put some kind of a job description together, so we know what this person is specifically supposed to be doing for each of these positions. So,
I agree with the job description. I think that's something that would really be nice to have. I think with the YMCA, I don't think it's gonna affect Derek's job very much. He's still gonna have a lot to do with ECFE, and so that's why I'm fine with keeping this contract the way it is. I think if we wanna revisit that in the future, if we do wanna make changes, totally open to that, but I think for now, I think Lindsay wants it on one, and that's why I'm okay with having this all together.
And I spoke with Gary Lee at MSBA, and he said that it's best to have it as one, is what his best one contract is what his comment was to me.
And I know, like I mentioned to you too, when I spoke with him too, he said that's fine if it's a promotion.
Now,
When you're
we, yeah,
promoting
he-
someone from like an assistant to the main
So
job.
what I have written down is adding a dean is a promotion, so there's no need to post a job. I think that was more about whether or not the job should have been posted.
the dean would be a promotion, that's a whole new job, because we never had it before.
Right.
But we're adding it
It's
to
a
it.
whole new position that we're putting in place.
But since we're adding it onto a position, he said it would be considered a promotion. I don't want to get into the details of whether it's a promotion or not, but yeah, I just wanted to let you know that that's what MSBA told me.
Any other discussion? Hearing nothing else, we will vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. All right, moving on. Number 2, approve Kendra Nolting as a special education paraprofessional effective January 24th of 2022.
So mobily.
Which is made by Boleen, seconded by Sheehan. Any discussion or questions? Hearing nothing, we will vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Number 3, approve Raquel Amberg Anderson as a volunteer dance coach for the 2022, 2021, 2022 school year.
So moved, Benson.
Second bullying.
Motion is made by Benson, seconded by Boleen. Any questions or discussion on this? Hearing nothing, we will vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Number 4, approve Becky Thole as Little Warriors preschool paraprofessional effective February 28th of 2022.
So moved, Jacobs.
Motion is made by Jacobs.
Second.
Seconded by Bookdale. Any questions or discussion? Hearing nothing, we will vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Number 5, approve the resignation of Jessica Martinez, special education paraprofessional, effective January 11th of 2022. Motion is made by Sheehan,
Second, Benson.
seconded by Benson. Any discussion or questions? Hearing nothing, we will vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Number 6, approve the resignation of Steve Solom, junior high track coach, effective February 9th of 2022. Motion is made by Benson,
Second book.
seconded by Bookto. Any questions or discussion? Hearing nothing, we'll vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Number 7, approve the resignation of Tonya Ziller, effective January 27th of 2022. Motion is made by Sheehan,
Second, Boleen.
seconded by Boleen. Any discussion or questions? Hearing nothing, we will vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Number 8, approve the resignation of Karen Smith, dance team coach, effective February 23rd of 2022. Motion is made by Jacobs,
Second.
seconded by Benson. Any discussion?
Yes. Just want to put a shout out there for Karen. Thank you very much, Karen Smith, for all your years of service on the Bold Dance team. You've done a wonderful, amazing job. Your commitment to these girls over the years is stellar. That's all I can say. It's been stellar. It's been fun watching everything you've done with the girls, and thank you for so many years of your service.
Thank you.
I'd like to back up there and do the same for Steve Solom. Thanks for everything you've done with your track and football and everything you've done for our community.
All right, getting back to Karen, we will vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Number 9, approve the following 2021-2022 extra, spring, and co-curricular positions.
So moved, Boleen.
All right, motion is made by Boleen,
Second book.
seconded by Bookto. Any discussion or questions? Hearing nothing, we will vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Number 10, approve Brett Benson as the junior high golf coach for the 2021-2022 school year.
So moved, Bookto.
Motion is made by Bookto,
Second, Boleen.
seconded by Boleen. Any discussion or questions? Hearing nothing, we will vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to reports. We'll begin with our superintendent's report.
All right, legislative update. There's a lot happening right now at the Capitol. There's just speaking the education related things. There's some crazy stuff. There's some good stuff, and it's worth taking a look at. I think some of the things that jumped out at me when I was going through it is one thing that could potentially help us out quite a bit is they're looking at changing the requirements for what they call a short call substitute teacher. Right now, the requirements are that you need to have a 4-year degree to be a short call substitute teacher. So they're looking at changing that to an associate's degree. And I can tell you, we've got a lot of really great people that in the community that would make fantastic substitute teachers, but they've just got associate's degrees. This is going to help that out quite a bit. So hopefully, I'm really crossing my fingers that goes through. I see there's different things for funding early childhood, which would help us out quite a bit. There's a proposal to increase the local option revenue for the school boards. There's let's see, I can't read my own writing here right now. There's a social studies requirement proposal to add a government and citizenship class. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I think we got enough. We've got special ed, a motion or a proposal to pay more of the special ed payment in the current year. We get a lot of that payment in like October or sometimes even a year later for the previous school year. So that would be nice to see that. And along with that, the governor is proposing to expand access to to pre-K, which is really important. I remember reading an article a few years ago where they were talking about the return on your investment at the pre-K level is huge. It's so much, you get so much more bang for your buck investing in those 3, 4, 5-year-old kids. And, maybe we could spend less on imprisoning and more on educating at the beginning. Another thing that he's proposing is to fix the problem with cross subsidies. One of the big problems that all school districts face is that their general fund ends up paying for a large portion of the special ed funding. And special ed is extremely important. I don't want to make it sound like we shouldn't be paying that, but because we need to. But what happens is the government tells us you have to be spending all this money, and then they're giving us just a portion of that. So it'd be really nice to be able to see that fixed. A little perspective, we passed an operating levy a few years back for $24 per student, and we're paying about $700 some per student out of our general fund to make up for what we're not getting from the government for special ed. So that would be huge. The free meals, they're looking at continuing providing students with free meals at school. That's nice. There's a negative coming from that. We get a lot of funding from our free and reduced lunch applications. And this is happening in all schools, now that the meals have been free, people have stopped filling out those applications. And they don't understand that we rely on those for a lot of our grant funding. So all schools are losing out on a lot of grant money because it looks like our free and reduced went from like 45% to 31%. So it's hard to qualify for a lot of those things. Let's see, the facilities, I guess I really wanted to talk about the indoor air quality testing with the facilities. We've got testing is going to happen here in this building, but I talked to some people that were concerned that they felt that there were a higher number of the boys basketball teams with some respiratory issues. So I just want to make sure that that's not a problem. So I've got IEA coming out to do a air quality test. They're just going to focus around the gym, locker rooms, and a couple of that area, the lobby area there. So, and then last, I've got the request to negotiate. We received that from the Ask Me union, and it's particularly there's two Ask Me unions. One is the custodians. This request has specifically come from the Paras Food Service and administrative assistants. So we'll be looking to move forward with that. And I'd mentioned earlier to some of you that I think we should probably look at doing a closed session to negotiate for negotiation strategies at the end of March, just to kind of come up with a plan for what we want to see with them. So I'll send you out their current contract. You can take a look at that and come up with ideas what we want to see. Any questions for me?
All right, moving on to K through 12 principals report. Mr. Benson's on his way up.
We've got a lot going on here. After school program is still going well. We don't quite have as many right now, but we're in between mid-quarter and the end of the quarter, so they've kind of gotten their grades up, and so we'll see an uptick again come the end of the quarter here in a couple weeks. MCA tests, it's crazy to think we're to March starting tomorrow. MCAs will be starting shortly. That's the big thing that's coming up. Brittany Ms. Stein has been working on developing our class schedules for next year for grades 9, 12 so far. Grades 7 and 8, we're looking at doing something a little bit different. Instead of having a study hall option for grades 7 and 8, possibly doing a social emotional a reading course. It was brought up to my attention, maybe a math course that ties into what I consider special as the choir or the band aspect. So if they're not taking choir or band, they're going to take one of those 3 or 4 classes, however we finagle it, instead of a study hall, just to improve our reading scores or improve our social emotional scores, math scores for that. K4 participated in the I Love to Read Month. We had about half of our kids achieve the reading challenge as of last Wednesday. I don't have the official number on it today, but as of last Wednesday. And then kindergarten roundup is coming up here April 19th. I am kind of thinking we're going to have another big kindergarten class, which is good. So that's kind of where we're at there. Sandy, last meeting, you asked about not comparing ourselves to the neighboring districts, trying to be the best. I sent a Google form out to grades 7 through 12 on what's working well, what's not working, and ideas to improve it. So that will be going out to the community and the parents here this week, end of this week, early next week. So that's kind of where we're at. Any questions for me? Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, moving on to activities report. Mr. Flan is not able to be with us tonight. But if you have any questions for him about his report, please reach out to him. Also, same with pool. It's not on here, but, oh, it's
Yeah,
on,
it's on.
yeah, never mind. It
Don't
is
skip
on
it.
here. Okay, school board committee reports. Facilities and finance have both met. Do they have reports that they would like to?
We don't have an official.
No, but I mean, if you just kind of want to let us know
Yeah.
what's been going on.
So we met with Lindsay and she was going over some of the financials with us and stuff, and it was very complicated to follow, so I asked her for a 5-year breakdown of our LTFM, our long-term facility maintenance funds that come in. We're supposed to get like $250,000 a year, so over the last 5 years, we should have had $1.25 million available to spend on our long-term facility maintenance funds, but it was a little confusing to me, and so I didn't get a chance. I just printed this off, so I didn't get a chance to visit with her about this either. But we still have, if I remember right, when I totaled this over the last 5 years, we should have like around 360-some thousand in our long-term facility maintenance, not including the 250 we would have got for this year. So that put us like a little over 600 we should have in there. Well, then I was looking at the different things that were done, and the only one on here that doesn't make sense to me is I have recorded that in 2019, we did $75,000 worth of roof repair at the kitchen here in Olivia and $52,000 in the roof in Bird Island, but it doesn't show that on here. So I'm wondering if it didn't accidentally get posted to the wrong account.
Could be.
Why don't you email that to me, and rather than speculating at the board
Yeah,
meeting?
it's true.
That's
I
what
can
mean.
find
So
out.
that's why I said I didn't get a chance to visit with her about this because I just printed it out. So that was a little confusing. And we did talk about the community ed fund being in the red and trying to figure out where we can plug that hole and stop the bleeding, because we are deficit spending. If you would pay that off, we'd be, because it's like what, 400,000 or 500,000 in the red. So if you took that off the general fund, the expenditures are more than the revenues too, across the board. So we're trying to figure out why and how we can level
I
that
think
out.
what she explained was that it appears that they are, because we're spending this year the long-term facility maintenance money on a roof, but that has to be spent on that. And so it gives the impression that we're overspending by 70, 80,000, but we're really not.
Yeah, I know. And that's where it was really confusing. I think
Yeah.
for all of us sitting there, it was like her trying to explain that. And it'd be, like I mentioned to her too, I said, if we're going to do our due diligence as a board, on the finance committee, we need to be able to understand it better. So I think we're gonna have to meet with her again, and it's confusing.
Yeah, and I agree.
It's
I,
very
It
It's
is, and
not
she's there and
easy.
she explains it and you understand it, and then later I go back to it. What did she say? It is
Yeah.
confusing.
yeah, if you want to feel like a small child, like let her explain some of this, and then you realize, okay. And I find sometimes that, well, I feel lucky because I'm able to ask her a lot of these questions over and over, and she does a good job of explaining, and I'm glad she does that. But yeah.
All right, facilities, I know if you don't want to give a report, I mean, just a little, kind of what you guys have been, I know we kind of know what you've been working on, but
Well, we met with 6 different companies, interviewed them, was here for 5 hours.
It was a long time.
It was a very long time. We pretty much can say unanimously really liked Nexus. We've been having lots of emails going back and forth with questions, and Ellie's been on the spot within an hour answering those questions.
One of our members on the committee is very good with contracts, has some issue or some language questions that he would like answered. And so we're just gonna try and get those answered and go on.
She answered them.
Did she?
Yeah,
I haven't had a
she
chance
did.
to look at it. Okay,
She did.
so, yeah, once we feel comfortable with
I
that.
think we're very fortunate to have those people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I do too.
100%.
Very knowledgeable in
Yeah.
doing that, sorry.
Jackie's on the
Am I allowed to
committee.
speak?
If you
Sure.
give you permission.
Yep.
There you go.
I would just like to say it's a very diverse group on our committee, and it's been very fascinating to watch everybody's passion for our school district come together. We might have difference of opinions and how we want to see the next step, but overall, everybody's on the same page and really wants the best for our students and our staff and of course our communities. So I just wanted to make that noted.
thank you. All right, anything else? All right, moving on to pool board report, included in the packet. Tracy is not here, but if there are any questions, you please feel free to reach out to her. All right, moving on to new business. Number 1 is tabled until next month. So we'll move on to number 2 is the approve the YMCA Bold Hospital, Olivia Hospital Foundation Collaborative Agreement. It's enclosure number 2, and we have Jackie Edwards here.
All right, so it seems like I wasn't here too long ago, but a lot has happened since the last time we spoke. Tonight, we have the agreement in front of you, and I'm excited to say that the YMCA has already approved it, and our hospital board and foundation board have also approved it. So this is kind of our last step to make this a reality. I did a cover sheet for you, so the agreement is lengthy. And we worked with not only the school's legal counsel, but obviously our legal counsel and then the YMCA's legal team too, because there's a lot to go into this. And we wanted to take the time to get it right the first time. So when we presented back to our respective boards, we are ready to go and have everything hopefully very, very clear and very understandable to move forward. So, the highlights really, as we talked the last time I was here, it's all about in-kind contributions from the school district. That will help us to keep our programming fees as low as we possibly can go. And also just instead of asking for a monetary donation from the school district, we're asking for in-kind. And I think listening to you talk about your community ed funding, that will be very well receptive very helpful moving forward. But I do really want to mention that with Derek's position, a lot of communication is going to need to happen just because the Y is in your programming. There's all of the scheduling needs. There's still early childhood, and this is new. So it's a lot of learning for new staff to come on board and how it's going to work and things like that. So I just want to make that known. We're going to learn a lot, like you said, Tracy, as we continue to go through this. We're going to learn what we need from the school, what we need from the community, how are we going to grow, and things like that. Some other highlights that we've done since we last met too is we've had a ton of little meetings. We're trying to stay ahead on the communication. We want people to know that this is a partnership. It's not an overtaking of anything. If it's a program that you want to, bring your activity underneath, that's great. If you want to stay standalone, that's wonderful too. It's really about how do we partner, how do we think differently, and how do we move together to provide programming for all ages for our community. So I open it up to any questions that you have. Hopefully the agreement you found very simple to go through, at least with the cover sheet. It took some time. We had hoped to be here in January, but it was worth waiting that extra month to make sure that we took that extra time to really make sure all of our entities were on the same page.
And she mentioned, but yeah, our attorney has gone through this extensively,
Yep.
so.
And the input from each legal team was very helpful because the vision was here, but how do you explain that to a legal team? Sometimes got a little bit difficult. But they asked a lot of good questions and that's important.
So if I'm getting this correct, okay, you're still gonna utilize Mr. Flan.
Oh, yes.
So he will
He's
be
our
doing all
conduit
the
to the school.
scheduling as he does now then.
He's our conduit to the school. When I say scheduling, so let's say the Y has a tumbling class that they're bringing here. Well, we need to get that on the school schedule. So they would email or talk to Derek and say, hey, these are the dates and times we're looking for. How does this look for your schedule? You know, they can go online and look to see what's open, but you're gonna need that conduit to make sure it gets booked.
So he basically will just do the scheduling part of it.
And communication, you know, how do we use things in the school, teach us, you know, because it's gonna be new. They're gonna need to know how things work, you know, where are light switches, where is this equipment, what do you have, what's available. So the first year is gonna be a heavy lift. It's gonna be a lot of training, but you know, as time goes on, that should lessen. But who knows, as it grows and changes and hopefully expands to area communities, you know, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that, nope, it'll be less, you don't know. But yeah, Derek is definitely gonna be that conduit to make sure that we can make everything happen. Any other questions? And we're excited to say that I shouldn't take the credit for the Y, but the Y is looking at their summer programming and getting that all established and looking at summer help. So we've connected with past employees for summer rec because we don't want to lose those opportunities.
Yeah.
Trying to do some workarounds. They're figuring out, when we talked to, we had all the different phases. And I'm pretty excited to say that we thought school-age childcare would be a further out phase. They're looking to bring that in this fall. So there's some big changes that we had hoped would come eventually that they'll be able to bring out right away. The survey that went out through Community Ed not too long ago was to help them determine, does the community want more hours and more weeks in the summer, or are they happy with what they had? Or do we need to do a hybrid? I mean, again, it's about coming out a little slowly to make sure it's sustainable and then to really get their perspective too on what school-age childcare is the need there. But we've had work sessions with Derek. We've had work sessions with Matt Zupke from Community Ed. Tracy, we've met with many fitness instructors in the community. We've met with the Cultural Center. We've met with the Brown and Olivia EDAs. So, I mean, we're documenting all of this. So if you're ever bored and want to see what we've been up to, we've been very busy connecting with the community because we don't want to blindside anybody and we want to make sure that they understand it's a partnership and it's not a forced partnership. We're working on the scholarship fund. So right now we're requesting funds throughout the community to help us establish a scholarship fund that's open to all ages. So if you have a financial hardship, we want you to still be able to partake in the activities. And that's very exciting for our community because that's extremely new. So yeah, lots of good stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
It's fun to see it all come together finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's not quite groundbreaking, but
It is pretty.
but for us, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
You know, I think about, like, I could direct a movie, but if you could get George Lucas, he's going to do a way better job than I could. So
Well, I'm thinking maybe like a tumbling class and they can bring down equipment, but
yeah.
I think it's just those simple things that, we have a lot of people driving out of town for a young tumbling class. Well, now if we can bring equipment from the Y just to offer a 6 weeks program here.
Yeah.
I think it just opens opportunities and it's investing back in our community. So how do we retain, how do we attract new community members, and it's not just recreational. They have leadership programs and they have so much more to offer. And the infrastructure's there.
All right.
So
Thanks for all
hopefully we
your
just
hard
get that
work.
yes, final blessing tonight and we can, if the board approves it, then we'll look to do a public news release and really start to promote it and take it to that next level.
And I'm also hoping that we can be getting stuff not just happening here, but out in Bird
yes.
Island, in Lake Lillian, getting stuff to,
It's all about using the facilities that we have today. So however that looks, and again, it's not just for this district. We're starting here, but it's open to everybody. I mean, it's no different than going up to the YMCA and partaking in their events or the community center in Redwood. It's open to all. We've had a lot of discussion on transportation, so more to come on that and figuring out, especially as you look at school age childcare, how do we help mom and dad or guardians, make that transition to get them home too. So lots of good to come yet.
Thanks for all.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
this is
Yes.
good stuff.
Yes. All right, back to the approval. So need a motion to approve the YMCA
I'll make
Bold.
the motion.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, who,
I made the.
you were
Jamie
first,
second, I think.
Jamie? Multiple. If there was a third,
we could.
God, you win. All right.
I
All right, any further any discussion? Hearing nothing, we will vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Number 3, discuss Island Hub nonprofit 501c3
It's hard to
Board of
say.
Directors. Yeah, apparently it's hard to say. And possibly appoint a board member to this Board of Directors. It's discussion. Mr. Gleesner is here with us tonight.
Thank you. Well, handout, sometimes it's easier to look at some pictures and things as you're going along. I've been trying to keep it on your head,
Thank you.
get tired out, fall asleep. So I put this together, it's a combination
you.
of some things, but kind of wanted to get an idea of what we've been doing, so that you kind of know what you're getting into if you do. Island Hub. The mission statement for Island Hub is the Island Hub is a community multi-purpose hub. Will be in the elementary school that will foster school sports, student learning, business expansion, event space, community wellness, and arts programs for Central Renville County. This is the mission statement for Island Hub. It will also be the mission statement that's in the Articles of Incorporation and bylaws. And so these are the types of activities and things that will be the focus of the Board of Directors that you're looking at tonight. And that'll be the focus of the board's activities. It's a multifunctional, multi-purpose. The next page gives you the work from Angan Associates that laid it all out. What do we need to do to make that space functional and how would we use it? And is it feasible to use? And so you've got use of area, whole school, having the stage gym, locker room, and corridor area there, concession stand. So locker room and boiler room. The boiler room is split half between, as we did our figuring, half between the school's use and where it'll be using on the west wing and possibly some on the south there, depending upon where those lines all go. What happens is when you take down that 3-story structure in the middle, a lot of that boiler activity that goes to the east side and to the south is cut off. And so that has to be reestablished. We'll go over that in a little bit here. So then you've got the leased coworker space education pods on the west side. You've got a community event center in the small gym with Athman's going away. This community does need something for larger gatherings. And so the small gym would become a community event center tied to the kitchen and cafeteria. The kitchen would be a community kitchen and cafeteria lobby. The lobby would be new and the locker room would be new. And then you've got rural computer consultants on the south side. They would expand using the shop area and office areas. A wellness fitness center in the classroom on the south side there. We used to have one at Gleesner's that was open to the public. When we were bought out by NBW, the insurance prohibited them from using it for community use. And at the same time, Rural American Fitness, Lori Sheehan had her exercise line in town, which was really nice because you got the equipment and we were getting kids and adults and so was she, but then that ended up being closed. So it's nice to have that kind of a exercise kind of a thing in your community so people can go at whatever time. So that's the fitness center. The cultural center is looking at taking 2 classrooms. Developing Roots is Letta Jacobs with her heirloom seeds and plant starts, and is proposing to put in a greenhouse, which will be attached to that. And then those are the use of the various areas. Total square footage is listed for each of them. The school square footage, if you take the gymnasium stage, the locker room, and half the boiler room, the school will be using about 30% of the use of this facility. So just to give you some idea. The next page gives you the what it would take to use the facility, and I'm going to associate again put these figures together. It's taking out the hazardous materials. It's demolishing the 3-story structure, and 5 of the classrooms on the east side where the greenhouse is now. There's a block of 4 plus 1 in that line up there. There's selective demolition to accommodate a new exterior wall on the inside where the old building goes out. And then the process of reconnecting the electrical, water, and sanitary sewer systems that ran through that 3-story structure to service the east side and whatever parts of the south side that it was servicing. So those will have to be re-hooked up and routed to those areas. So that would be new. What else? The HVAC, heating and ventilation for those areas that are no longer going through the 3-story structure. And so that would be the east wing, and some of the south wing would be put back up. That would all be new. I know in the facility committee, there's some talk about HVAC systems and those kinds of things. And I don't know that everybody kind of realized what the remodeling would do. So this helps kind of clarify some of that. And then there would be an ADA accessible restroom, probably off the lobby between the event center and the cafeteria. A lobby would be put into these figures, and a new locker room. And in his figures, the greenhouse is not in his figures. So if you go to the next page, it gives you a total of 6.7 million to make the building usable for somebody to come in and then take a look at their own spaces and what they want to do interior wise. So all it's doing is making the building whole for somebody to come in and use it. Moving on, then we engaged ArtSpace consultants to help us do a feasibility study. What's it going to take to run the place once it's all put together? And they again dug in more deeply into the use areas and what the cost would be for somebody to operate it. And this gives you the capital breakdown. And if you notice in the middle there, it's circled the number 7.5 million. And that's the number that we're looking at to put that facility together for the capital part of it. And then the bottom part, and it's not really spelled out, is the operating budget over a 15-year period, what it's going to take to maintain and operate that building. Basically, if you take your square footage in any one part, the releasing space in the building, at a minimum, it'll probably be about $2.80 per square foot. So for instance, if you looked at the school portion, number 4, Island Hub school portion, if you took that square footage, multiplied by 2.8 per square foot, you'd come down to, if you go down to the operating budget, you're looking at about $51,111 to operate the school portion of that building when it's ready to go. Next page, and then just whatever you have for questions. Next page, so how are we coming up to that 7.5 million to make this thing work? Well, state bond, we have 2,894,500 out of, well, a cost that we had at the time, so we took half of that. And so that's in the works. In a recent article in the Register, February 3rd, Senator Lang's early morning town hall meeting held at Heritage Bank in Wilmer, he did mention specifically the Island Hub project. And when discussing bonding projects, he specifically mentioned the Island Hub initiative, and he said involving a proposal to rehabilitate the former old school and elementary building in Bird Island into a multi-use space. And you've seen that for the business and the community. And he commented, quote, "There's a lot of value in that building. We'd hate to see it lost." And Lang seems to be pretty well thought of on the bonding committee, and so we're looking forward to him carrying us home. Congressional direct spending, we did put an application. It only was available for nonprofits, and so the Cultural Center put a proposal in Senator Tina Smith's office. And we've been watching and listening, and recently her legislative assistant, Annie McCloskey, I was asking because they had, question? No. They had put out it's the earmark program, the old earmark programs that they have for 2023. And so I shot her an email back asking, well, what about the 2022-21 was 2023, the last year's proposals? And she said that, quote, "It looks like your project was in good shape." Well, that was a big lift. The school bond referendum, $1 million is in the works. That was kind of way back when there was a bonding proposal, $1 million was earmarked. Right now, the Bold School District is in the process of hiring a consultant, talked about it tonight, and eventually to explore facility needs and develop a path forward. And so at some point, if there is a bonding proposal in that works, then you'd be looking for $1 million for the project. And then grants, and the balance of that 7.5 would come from grants. It's about 1.3 million. And in our process, we ended up talking with Jocelyn Hale. She's a foundation consultant. She was I want to say the writers group, The Loft. She was director and was very intimately involved after the open book consortium of 3 book-related companies in the city's nonprofits put together, and we borrowed heavily. The Articles of Incorporation is right off of their, out of one of their files. But she said, and she noted, and she's consulting with now with a firm, foundation in Illinois, and she said intersectionality is a buzzword in the cutting edge that foundations are looking at. The Hub is an excellent example of intersectionality, which is the most recent funding interest of foundations as a way to create creativity in rural Midwest communities, an intersection of culture, entrepreneurship, business, and agriculture. And I think we covered every one of those. So that's the 7.5. So it's looking very positive on the funding stream. Now, if that money starts flowing in, we need a governance structure to start channeling that money and going forward. So right now, our focus has been on setting up the Articles of Incorporation, a nonprofit 501c3. And I think you've been given a copy of the draft of the articles and the bylaws. And specifically under directors, and I got the page there, what this would do is carve out 4 members of the 4 primary tenants, Developing Roots, Cultural Center, Art Rural Computer Consultants, and the school. And specific to Cultural Center in Bird Island, a Minnesota nonprofit corporation, Old School District 2534, a Minnesota public school, Developing Roots, a Minnesota company, and Rural Computer Consultants, a Minnesota corporation, shall each be entitled to 1 director to the board of directors. So for as long as it's going, those 4 will always have a seat. The articles say to have anywhere from 5, I believe, 5 or 6 to 9 members. So those 4 would be the initial ones, and then they, as a board, would start adding members from specific areas or disciplines that are going to be helpful to the ongoing operation of the hub, Island Hub. So another page. Okay, so present decision. At this point, it would be helpful to know if the Bold School District is in agreement and interested in having a representative on the board of directors of Island Hub, as would be defined in the Articles of Corporation, which you just looked at. Since the district will have a significant use of athletic space in the repurposed school for 5 or more years, is what we're hearing. And it's about 30% of the space that's there. It would seem having a defined board presence would be helpful to the district. And being on there, this does not hinder any or limit any future work on the Bold Facilities Committee in its search to develop a facilities plan that meets the needs of the school district, teachers, students, businesses, and the community. So right now, we're looking at finalizing articles of corporation with the school, and if not, then we'll just go ahead. And then our next step is to obtain a nonprofit 501c3 status so that we're eligible for that federal money to come through. And then the next step is to determine ownership of the building. And here's a good example of if the facility committee feels that they want to keep the whole school ownership, that's fine. And then we can still pursue our mission of helping to augment whatever it is the school is doing in terms of those areas, needs of the community and those kinds of things. If the school decides to own just its portion, that's fine. If the school decides just to lease, that's fine too. It doesn't, it has nothing, it puts nothing in the way of the facility committee to do whatever the school wants to do. So once we have the articles of incorporation, the 501(c)(3) status, we will start developing section plans in the school itself. Right now, the greenhouse is next up, and we've got a proposal into the University of Minnesota Extension Regional Sustainable Development Partnership, RSDP. And what they do is they pick about 10 projects, and then they put their professors and their students to work in what's the best, what's state of the art, how to make this work, and planning assistance. And they'll be working on that greenhouse and hopefully bleeding a little bit into that community kitchen to get that off the ground. So that'll be the next thing. We'll be digging down in the details. What do we need for equipment, licensing, how to make this thing all work? The community event space, the small gym. What do we need to do to replicate what the ballroom is doing? Who do we get to market to? And now's as good time as any. Not wait till the last minute. We'll start finding out what kind of party would like to be putting their weddings in there or event kinds of things, conferences. And then on the east wing, the co-worker ed space lease space, the school athletic space. Find out exactly how that's going to work. Rural computers, how they're going to use their space, and then the cultural center, what our plans are in our space. So that's the work, and we'll be doing that going forward. Right now, we're just at a juncture where we need to know if the school wants to be on board on the board of directors. Questions?
I think it sounds amazing.
Nobody fell asleep?
Guys, no, nobody fell asleep.
No.
So would anybody like to offer up their willingness to be on the board or at the Island Hub, or do you want to think about it and get back to Mr. Gleaser? Whatever you guys decide.
I'd love to be on it.
Me too. I think it's amazing.
I think you're asking for one right now,
Right.
right? And then you
Probably
get
choose
one
an alternate
representative.
though.
Right.
Could you,
You pick whoever you want.
Okay.
One person
You guys-
representing.
can we
Yeah,
have
you
an
guys-
alternate in case that person
yeah.
can't?
Okay, there you go.
Well, and it's just like any other nonprofit. I mean, today, at the Cultural Center, we had like 5 people around the table, and she asked, well, how's that gonna work? What if somebody doesn't want to be on there or something? I said, well, we're a nonprofit. Nonprofits where people come and go. And so you just say, well, I'm off. The school now has an option to put somebody else in,
Okay.
rather than the board picking who that's gonna be.
So Todd
I love
would like to do it, and then Teresa maybe be the alternate. And you guys can figure that out. All right.
You can also have a proxy, so if Todd can't make it, you can have her come and be a voting
There you
member
go.
representing the school. You can have a proxy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you
right.
very
That's really
much.
awesome.
You're welcome.
All right. All right, number 4, approve a resolution to enter into a cooperative agreement between Rhode Island, Olivia Lake Lillian ISD 2534 and Renville County West ISD 2890 for softball. That's a resolution, so
Oh,
sorry. I didn't.
You can still make the motion.
It's an action item, but it's a resolution, so I have to read it. So, and I didn't have that sheet up yet, so that was my fault. So member Benson introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Resolution to enter into cooperative agreement between Rhode Island, Olivia Lake Lillian ISD number 2534 and Renville County West ISD 2890 for softball. Whereas the Rhode Island, Olivia Lake Lillian ISD 2534 bold resolves to enter into cooperative agreement with Renville County West ISD 2890 RCW for softball at the levels governed by the Minnesota State High School League MSHSL effective March 1st of 2022. Whereas this cooperative will go into effect on March 1st, 2022, upon majority affirmative decisions from the Bold and RCW school districts. All costs associated with coaching, event transportation, and officials will be split evenly between Bold and RCW, so long as each school provides at least 1/3 of participants in the levels governed by MSHSL. If one school provides under 1/3 of participants at the level governed by the high school league, then the costs associated with coaching, event transportation, and officials will be divided between the schools by the percentage of the participants in the program from each school. The host school will be RCW, and the conference affiliation will be in the Camden Conference. Be it hereby resolved that the Bird Island Olivia Lake Lillian ISD number 2534 school board enters into the cooperative agreement with RCW for softball at the levels governed by the State High School League, effective March 1st of 2022. And the motion for the adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by member
Bowling.
Moline. And upon vote being taken thereon, the following voted in favor thereof. Sandy.
Aye.
Todd.
Aye.
Tracy.
Aye.
Teresa.
Aye.
Jamie.
Aye.
And I myself, I am an aye. Whereupon said resolution was declared passed and adopted, it is hereby certified that the Rhode Island Olivia Lake Lillian Public Schools number 2534 adopted this resolution at a meeting held on February 28th of 2022. So, thank you very much. All right, moving on, we have our second reading of policy number 721, the Uniform Grant Guidance Policy regarding federal revenue sources. Any questions on this second reading? We'll bring it back next month to approve it. So if there are any questions that we can answer now, that Mr. Menton can answer now. All right.
It hasn't gotten any more exciting since last week.
No, that's not.
Ugh.
So moving on, number 6 is the first reading of policy 404, the employment background checks. It's enclosure number 5. Any questions on this one?
We'll probably be seeing a couple recommended changes coming up. One thing we might want to talk about is volunteers. Currently, volunteers have to pay for their own background checks. Maybe that's something, a lot of schools are paying for volunteers' background checks. So that's something we might want to chat about in the future, thinking about that.
How much is a background check?
I think ours are 30. Brett, do you know? 15. That's for 2.
All right, so if you have any, this is only the first reading, so we'll see it again next month and the following. So if you have any questions, please ask Mr. Menton. Number 7 is approve the 2022-2023 school calendar, enclosure number 6.
So moved, Bookto.
Motion is made by Bookto. I will second that. Any questions on the calendar?
We've gone through this with a fine-tooth comb. Because as I told Sandy last year, I've never seen one of these go through without an error. So we've worked hard. Brett? Yeah. So
Very similar to this year's school calendar.
I'm not going to guarantee anything.
Okay, then I don't.
Brett is very
There's
concerned.
no
convinced.
guarantees.
Yeah. Is there something on here? Oh, jeez. All right.
If you calculate out teacher days, here, and here, it's only 180, you got 181 up here. Sorry.
Well, we haven't voted on it yet. Hold on.
Well, if that's. I
Hold
mean,
on.
Fix
No,
it to make
we're-
sure it's
44,
181
46,
days.
43, and 47. Maybe I calculated wrong.
Did you get the half?
I did the case report.
Well, yeah, so 44, 46, 43,
The other one's
47.
right, 5 through 12.
46, that's 90.
So. Am I right, Brett?
I can't have it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I just kind of did it in my head quick, so when I came there.
Yeah.
So the fourth quarter teacher day in the K through 4 needs to be 48 instead of 47. That would make it right.
Is that what it is? We're pretty sure that this is right over on the left.
Sorry. he-
No, no, no.
Where is that now?
No, no.
43
I just wish I would have let you
plus
talk first.
46.
Fourth quarter, oh, yeah.
Let's make that change.
That may be.
So if that fourth quarter teacher day is 48, just like the 5 through 12, 4 through 8 is 48 and 5 through 12 is 48, then it makes 181.
Yeah.
Wait.
What do you think, Brett?
I'm not gonna say yes or no. I mean, yeah, if I have one 47,
Well, no.
48.
We don't know. Jeez.
Oh, I know we have this too.
Well, we got to add a day somewhere. So, because if they're all supposed to work 181, then
Yeah, because that would make most sense.
So if you go August 29th, 30th, and 31st, that's three. That's 3 teacher days. Then you go down to November 22nd and 22nd and 23rd. Those are 2 half days. That's 4 for K4. The 16th of January is a 5th day. The 20th of January is a 6th day.
February 16th.
I think we just need
Yeah, all you
One-
gotta do is just fix the
one more
number.
day in K through 4. Just fix it. I think we can approve it pending the fixing. I mean, before you fix it, we are going to trust that you're going to fix it.
We will fix it.
So, all right. Awesome. So I have a motion and a second, and we had some discussion. So let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Number 8, approve the 2021-2023 EA Master Agreement.
So no bullying.
Motion is made by Boleen,
I'll second.
seconded by Bookbill. Any discussion or questions? Hearing nothing, we will vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, moving on to upcoming dates. March 28th will be our next regular scheduled meeting here in the district office at 7. And then we'll move on to adopt a resolution to acknowledge and accept gifts, grants, and bequests, which is quite long. So here we go.
Sorry.
Nope, that's okay. This is all good stuff. Member Jacobs introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Whereas anonymous donor has generously donated shot clocks for the Bold, Rhode Island large gym. Whereas Dirk Splam Funeral Service Inc. has generously donated $100 to the Bold First Robotics team. Whereas Bowen Chiropractic PA has generously donated $250 for the Bold First Robotics team. Whereas Kraft Walzer Office has generously donated $50 for the Bold First Robotics team. Whereas FM Bank has generously donated $500 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Sheehan's Gas Company has generously donated $500 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Southern Minnesota Beet Sugar Cooperative has generously donated $750 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Franzen Bank and Trust has generously donated $50 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Citizens Alliance Bank has generously donated $100 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Farm Cooperative has generously donated $100 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas K&S Electric Inc. has generously donated $300 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Olivia Lions Club has generously donated $500 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Eric J. Shea, State Farm Insurance has generously donated $50 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Tri Construction LLC has generously donated $500 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas George Parr Agency Inc. has generously donated $100 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Hebrink Wealth Management, Corey Hebrink, has generously donated $250 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas H&L Printing has generously donated $50 to the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Kelchen Wheel LLC has generously donated $50 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Fisher Laser Eye has generously donated $50 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Big Stone Therapies Inc. has generously donated $50 to the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Pages of Our Community Foundation, doing business as Bold Wrestling Boosters, has generously donated $60 for the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Olivia Appliance Inc. has generously donated $25 to the Bold First Robotics team, whereas Kibble Equipment LLC has generously donated $100 for the Bold First Robotics team. Therefore, be it resolved by the Bold School Board to gratefully accept these gifts.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. For the motion for the adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by member Sheehan. And upon a vote being taken thereon, the following voted in favor thereof. Jamie.
Aye.
Aye.
Tracy.
Aye.
Todd.
Aye.
Sandy.
Aye.
And I myself, I am an aye. The foregoing resolution was approved this 28th day of April, and thank you all to everyone who donated. It's so greatly appreciated.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, and you know,
shouldn't be
the,
the first robotics team anymore. You should be like the third.
oh, I don't know about that. Yeah, the neat thing too is Callie, who kind of heads up our marketing team, just did all this on her own. I didn't even have to mention it, so.
Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
To move into
Oh,
closed
to
session,
closed
to close the
session.
meeting?
You have mine, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Could I get a second for that?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Nay. Motion carries 8:22. Thank you all for coming in, out here to the meeting.
Over.
Take just a real short recess here and then.
Have a moment.
Yeah.
Have a moment. Take a break.
You.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks, Lovey.